The company's funding dried up. I got on my knees and begged my wife, the heiress to the Wallace fortune, to save it. Instead, she liquidated all her available assets and used the money to buy a supporting actor role for her pet project, a pretty boy celebrity named Chase. She tried to soothe me, saying that if Chase was happy, he'd put in a good word for me with the director. She called it a long-term investment. My company was forced into bankruptcy. I was buried in debt. The next day, I put the divorce papers on the table in front of her. She frowned, her face a mask of contempt. For a little bit of money? My brother's future is worth more than your pathetic little company. I looked at the woman I had loved for 10 years. Yeah, just sign it. 1. Sophia Wallace picked up the divorce papers like she was handling something contaminated. Her beautiful features were twisted in disbelief. Leo, are you done with this tantrum? Is this really worth getting worked up over? Your little startup. I didn't say a word, just slid a pen across the table toward her. I'd been up all night drafting the agreement for the division of assets. I only asked for the small studio apartment I'd owned before we were married. I didn't want anything else. There was nothing left between us to divide anyway. Sophia's eyes fell on the asset clause, and the contempt on her face deepened. Is this your new angle? Trying to guilt-trip me? Leo, when did you get so pathetic? I let out a dry laugh. Whatever warmth I had left for her was snuffed out by that single sentence. 10 years. From bootstrapping the company with nothing to building it into something respectable, and now to watching it all burn to the ground. I thought she'd have at least a shred of nostalgia for what we'd built. I was wrong. In her eyes, my decade of work, my entire life's ambition, was worth less than a smile from Chase Rivers. Sophia, Chase isn't your brother, I stated, my voice flat. Her head snapped up. Whether he is or not is none of your business. I wanted to help him. And let me tell you something, Leo. Chase is the purest, most genuine soul I have ever met. He has a brilliant future ahead of him. Your company was going under anyway. Maybe this is a good lesson in humility for you. Pure? Genuine? An image of Chase's face flashed in my mind. That smug, challenging smirk he always wore. He never bothered to hide the greed and possessiveness in his eyes when he looked at my life. Only Sophia was completely fooled by his innocent act. Sign it, I said again, my voice devoid of emotion. Sign it, and we're even. My stonewalling seemed to infuriate her. She snatched the pen and scribbled her name, pressing so hard the pen nearly tore through the paper. You're going to regret this, Leo. She threw the signed papers at my face. The edge of the paper sliced my cheek, a thin, sharp sting. I picked up the agreement, folded it carefully, and tucked it into my jacket pocket. The only thing I regret, I said, is not giving you this sooner. With that, I turned and walked away. I didn't look back. Walking out of the Westchester mansion we had shared for 7 years, the afternoon sun was blinding. I flagged down an Uber and gave the driver the address of my old, dusty studio in Queens. The driver eyed me in the rearview mirror. Trouble at home, man. I shook my head and leaned back against the seat. Getting divorced. The car fell silent. I watched the city streets blur past the window. I didn't feel the crushing pain I expected, only a strange, profound sense of relief. It was like a heavy weight I'd been carrying for a decade had finally been lifted from my shoulders. That house and the woman inside it were now just part of the past. My phone buzzed. A text from Sophia. I threw all your crap on the lawn. Don't even think about coming back for it. I texted back 2 words. Okay, thanks. Then I blocked her number and deleted her from my contacts. 10 years ago, when I met Sophia, she wasn't the untouchable Wallace heiress. She was just a college kid who'd had a falling out with her family and was working part-time jobs to get by. And I was a broke founder, fresh out of college with nothing but an idea. We squeezed into my tiny 400-square-foot studio, eating ramen packets and dreaming about the future. She'd said, Leo, when you make it big, you have to buy me the biggest diamond in the world. I'd said deal. Later, my company took off. The Wallace family reconciled with Sophia, and she returned to her life as a socialite. We got married. I bought her the diamond she wanted, and we moved into the mansion in Westchester. I thought we'd be happy forever. Until Chase showed up 3 years ago. Sophia said he was the son of a distant relative she had sponsored, an orphan who had a tough life and deserved a break. She let him move in with us, calling him her little brother. I never suspected a thing. I did my best to be good to this brother. Whatever he wanted, if I could afford it, I gave it to him. Until I noticed the way Sophia looked at him. It was the same look I used to give her. A burning, undisguised adoration. That was when my company began its slow, painful spiral into the abyss. Sophia stopped caring about quarterly reports. All her energy was focused on Chase. Chase wanted to be an actor, so she called in every favor and spent a fortune to pave his way. Chase complained that filming was hard, so she pulled funding from one of my company's critical projects to buy him a luxury trailer. And I was the clown, watching her dismantle everything we had built together and offer it up as a toy to please another man. It all came to a head when the funding dried up completely. I swallowed every last ounce of my pride and got on my knees in front of her. And all I got in return was her airy dismissal about a long-term investment. An investment in Chase was an investment in the future. My future, in her eyes, was already worthless. The studio apartment hadn't been lived in for years and was covered in a thin layer of dust. I spent the whole afternoon cleaning it from top to bottom. Looking at the small but spotless room, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't known in a long time. This was my real home. That night, I was just heating up some leftover pizza when my phone buzzed. An unknown number. I answered it. Now, it was Sophia's father, my former father-in-law. I heard about you and Sophia. His voice was heavy with fatigue and apology. It's my fault. I failed to raise her right. Mr. Wallace was a shrewd and ruthless businessman and a strict father. He'd never really approved of me, thinking I wasn't good enough for his daughter. But on the subject of Sophia and Chase, he was surprisingly clear-eyed. He had warned Sophia more than once to keep her distance from Chase. But a woman blinded by obsession rarely listens to reason. It's not your fault, sir, I said calmly. We just weren't meant to be. There was a pause on the other end. I heard about your company. If you need capital, I can. That won't be necessary, Robert, I interrupted, the name feeling unfamiliar on my tongue. Thank you for the offer, but I want to do this myself. You stubborn kid. He sighed. Sophia is spoiled rotten. She'll pay for her actions one day. You, take care of yourself. After hanging up, I looked at the now cold pizza on my plate and realized I had no appetite. The bankruptcy proceedings were a bureaucratic nightmare. I sold my car to pay off the last of the bank loans, leaving me with less than $5,000 to my name. A friend told me I was a fool for turning down Mr. Wallace's offer. What's wrong with you? Why make enemies with money? You could take his cash, rebuild your empire, and one day grind Sophia under your heel. That's real revenge. I just shook my head. I didn't want any more ties to the Wallace family. Good or bad, I just want to start my own life. One day, while sorting through old boxes, I found the leatherworking tools I'd used in college. They were caked in dust. Back then, making things out of leather was my biggest hobby. I didn't have any money, so for Sophia's birthday one year, I made her a wallet by hand. She was so happy she spun me around in a hug, telling me it was the best gift she'd ever received. The business got too busy, and the hobby fell by the wayside. I took out the tools and began to clean them one by one. The supple resistance of the leather, the steady path of the needle and thread, the cool touch of the metal clasps, the familiar sensations slowly calmed my chaotic mind. Maybe I could go back to my old craft. I decided to go for it. With the last of my money, I rented a cheap little storefront in a gritty part of Brooklyn and bought some used tools and basic hides. My little workshop was officially open for business. With no customers, I made things for myself. Wallets, keychains, journal covers. I hung the finished products in the shop and posted pictures of them on an Instagram account I created. Life was simple, but it was peaceful. That peace was shattered 2 weeks later. It was a sunny afternoon. I was conditioning a piece of vegetable-tanned leather when a shadow fell over the doorway. I looked up and saw Chase Rivers. He was dressed head to toe in designer streetwear, his hair dyed a flashy platinum blonde. He wore dark sunglasses, and a playful, mocking smile danced on his lips. 2 assistants hovered behind him. Well, if it isn't the great Leo Vance. He took off his sunglasses, looking around my tiny 10-by-10-foot shop with theatrical disbelief. Didn't realize you'd fallen this far. I ignored him and went back to my work. He didn't seem to mind, strolling around the shop and picking up a keychain I'd just finished. TSK. This craftsmanship is strictly amateur hour. He tossed the keychain back on the table with a clatter. Name your price. I'm buying this place. I stopped what I was doing and looked at him. You're not welcome here. Still got an attitude, huh? Chase laughed. You think you're still the hotshot CEO? You're a broke loser. I'm offering you money. It's a compliment. I'll give you 30 grand. Now get out. I picked up a leather cutting knife from my workbench, testing its weight in my hand. I'll say it one more time. Get out. Chase's expression flickered. One of his assistants immediately stepped in front of him. What do you think you're doing? I'm warning you. Chase is a public figure. You touch him and you'll regret it. Just then my phone rang. It was a customer who had ordered a custom wallet on my Etsy shop a month ago, saying he was nearby. I put down the knife. I don't want to make a scene. Please leave. Chase sneered. Fine, I'll go. But a piece of advice, Leo. Get over it. Sophia's with me now. You can't compete with me. He put his sunglasses back on and swaggered out. I watched him go, feeling nothing but a strange calm. Compete? I had no intention of competing with him. From the moment I signed those divorce papers, Sophia and everything in her world had ceased to matter to me. Soon after, my customer found the shop. He was a well-dressed, distinguished-looking man who introduced himself as Mr. Croft. He frowned at the mess Chase had left behind. Was that the actor Chase Rivers? Yeah. Mr. Croft didn't press. He simply picked up the wallet I had made for him and examined it closely. Mr. Vance, your work is even better than I imagined. The appreciation in his eyes was genuine. Thank you. Of course, he said with a smile. A friend of mine is organizing a private showcase for bespoke brands. I think your work would be a perfect fit. Would you be interested in participating? I was taken aback. Me? Yes, you. Mr. Croft handed me a business card. Here's my contact information. Think about it. This could be a real opportunity for you. I took the card. It had a single name and a phone number. Julian Croft. The name sounded familiar. 3. After Julian Croft left, I stared at his business card for a long time. A private showcase for bespoke brands. For my tiny, unknown workshop, it felt like winning the lottery. But it all seemed a little too good to be true. That night, I Googled the name Julian Croft. When the search results appeared, I understood why Chase had looked familiar to him. Julian Croft was the editor-in-chief of Verve, the country's leading fashion magazine. He was a titan in the industry, a man whose opinion could make or break a career. And the showcase he mentioned was a top-tier annual event, invitation only for a select few elite designers and artisans. How could my humble work have possibly caught his eye? I called the number on the card. He answered almost immediately. Hello, Mr. Vance. Mr. Croft. I began, hesitating. That showcase. Why did you think of me? A soft chuckle came from the other end. Because your pieces have a story, Julian said, his voice warm. I can see the focus, the sense of peace you put into them. That kind of artisan spirit is rare these days. As for Chase Rivers, he paused. Stars like that, built on money and hype, are worthless when placed next to true craftsmanship. His words put my mind at ease. I agreed to participate in the showcase. For the next month, I practically lived in my workshop. I poured all my energy into preparing the pieces for the exhibition. I designed a collection based on the theme of rebirth, from wallets and card holders to a briefcase and a backpack. Every single piece was infused with my full attention and skill. On the day of the showcase, I brought my collection to the most luxurious convention center in the heart of the city. My booth was tucked away in an obscure corner, surrounded by internationally famous brands and the flashy displays of up-and-coming designers. By comparison, my little corner looked pathetic. But I didn't care. I arranged my pieces one by one, feeling like a father waiting for his children to be judged. The event began, and the hall slowly filled with people. My booth, however, remained empty. People would walk by, give my work a cursory glance, and then be drawn away by the more glamorous displays next to mine. I didn't get anxious. I just sat quietly, polishing my tools. In the afternoon, Julian Croft arrived, a few reporters in tow. Leo, he said, walking straight to my booth. Mr. Croft, I said, standing up, are the pieces ready? Yes. He picked up the briefcase I had designed and held it up for the cameras. Everyone, this is Leo Vance, an incredibly talented independent leather artisan. His Rebirth collection is the most moving work I have seen all year. The camera flashes were blinding. Suddenly, a crowd started to gather around my small corner. I was unaccustomed to the attention and just managed a polite smile for the cameras. Just then, a commotion rippled through the crowd. I saw Sophia and Chase, surrounded by a team of bodyguards, making their way into the hall. Sophia was in a couture gown, her makeup flawless, looking every bit the untouchable queen. Chase clung to her arm, a triumphant smirk on his face. Their arrival immediately captured the attention of the entire press corps. Julian frowned. Sophia didn't seem to see me. Her eyes scanned the venue, as if searching for something. Finally, her gaze landed on a jewelry brand's display not far away. The brand's celebrity spokesman was, of course, Chase. She led him over, chatting happily with the brand representatives. Chase, however, looked over the crowd and shot a provocative glance in my direction. His eyes seemed to say, "See? Everything you lost is mine now." I broke eye contact and turned away. After his interview, Julian patted my shoulder. "Don't mind them. Just a pathetic sideshow." I nodded. Julian's endorsement brought me my first real, appreciative customers. They gathered at my booth, examining my work, asking about my design inspiration and the crafting process. For the first time, I felt the value and respect of being an artisan. As the showcase was winding down, an unexpected visitor arrived. It was Mr. Wallace. He was dressed in a sharp, tailored suit, looking as formidable as ever. His assistant trailed behind him. "Robert," I said, using the name. He nodded, his gaze sweeping over my work. He examined each piece carefully, without a word. Finally, he picked up the briefcase, the piece I had poured the most of myself into. "I'll buy this one," he said. "I'm sorry. That's a display piece for the exhibition. It's not for sale," I explained. "I know," Mr. Wallace said, looking at me. "But I'm taking it home today. Name your price." His tone was so similar to Chase's that day in my shop, but I knew they were worlds apart. "If you like it, I will be happy to make a new one for you." "No," he shook his head. "I want this one." "Leo, I know you're angry, but with what happened with Sophia, the Wallace family owes you. Let this briefcase be my apology on her behalf." There was a weariness in his voice that I hadn't heard before. I fell silent. In the end, I sold him the briefcase. He left me a check with a number on it large enough to expand my workshop tenfold. Watching him leave with the case, I felt a complex mix of emotions. After the showcase, my name started to gain a little recognition in the industry. Orders began to pour in. I used the money from Mr. Wallace to rent a larger studio and hire 2 apprentices. Life, it seemed, was finally getting back on track. I thought I would never have to deal with Sophia again, until the day she showed up at my new studio, an uninvited guest. She looked a little worn out, with faint dark circles under her eyes. "Nice new place," she said, looking around. Her tone was laced with sarcasm. "Feel good, spending my father's money?" I was sanding a piece of leather and didn't look up. "What do you want, Sophia?" "Leo," she snapped. "Do you have to speak to me with that tone?" "We're divorced, Ms. Wallace," I said, putting down my tool and finally looking at her. "I can't imagine what we have to talk about that requires a civil tone." The color drained from her face. "I came to tell you something. Chase's movie won an award. He's going to a major film festival overseas next month, and he needs a top-of-the-line set of accessories. I want you to custom-make a leather goods set for him." I felt a laugh bubble up inside me, humorless and cold. "And you think I'm going to say yes?" "You will," Sophia said, a strange, stubborn light in her eyes. "I know you hate me, and you hate him, but you're a businessman. You won't say no to money. I'll pay you 3 times your rate. No, 5 times. Get out," I said. "Now." I said get out. I pointed to the door, enunciating every word. "Take your money and your boy toy and disappear from my world. For good." Sophia's eyes welled up with tears. "Is it just because I didn't help you when your company went bankrupt? Do you hate me that much?" "Well, I'll tell you something. I don't regret it for a second. Chase's success proves I made the right choice. He has 100 times more potential than you or your pathetic little company ever did," she screamed, her voice raw and hysterical. I looked at her and suddenly felt a profound sense of pity for her and for the 10 years of my life I had wasted. "Are you done?" I asked. "If you're done, please leave." I turned my back on her, picked up my tools, and focused on my work. Sophia stood there behind me for a long time. Finally, I heard the sharp, angry clicks of her heels as she stormed away. The studio was quiet again. The only sound was the gentle, rhythmic scraping of sandpaper on leather. Sophia's visit was like a stone tossed into a calm lake. It made ripples, but they quickly subsided. My life carried on. I spent my days with leather and thread, and my time felt full and peaceful. I was getting more clients through Julian, and the studio was thriving. I even started collaborating with a few independent designers on limited edition lines. Success in my work was slowly healing the wounds from my failed marriage. But Sophia and Chase, it seemed, weren't done with me yet. One day, my primary leather supplier suddenly terminated our contract without explanation. When I called, they mumbled something about orders from the top. Shortly after, my landlord showed up, telling me he was taking back the property, and I had to be out by the end of the month. I knew exactly who was behind it. No one else had the power or the motive. I was scrambling to find a new supplier and a new studio when the client for a massive order called. He was an executive I'd met at the showcase who had ordered a batch of custom briefcases as gifts for his company's annual retreat. The order was huge, a make-or-break deal for my studio. "Mr. Vance, I hear you've run into some trouble recently," he said, his voice steady. "Just a few small hiccups. It won't affect our collaboration," I said, trying to sound confident. "Good to hear. Still, I need to confirm. Can you guarantee delivery by next week?" There was a hint of urgency in his voice. My stomach sank. Without raw materials, there was no way I could meet the deadline. Defaulting on the contract would mean not just crippling financial penalties, but the complete destruction of the reputation I had just begun to build. I stood in my empty supply closet, feeling a wave of helplessness wash over me. Sophia's move was swift and brutal, designed to pull the rug out from under me. She wanted to see me ruined again. The phone rang again. It was the client, his tone now impatient. "Mr. Vance, I need a straight answer. If you can't deliver on time, I'll have to cancel the order and pursue legal action for breach of contract." My hand, slick with sweat, gripped the phone. The path forward seemed completely blocked. I took a deep breath, ended the call, and scrolled through my contacts to a number I never wanted to dial again. "Mr. Wallace." The phone rang for a long time before he picked up. "Hello. Robert, it's Leo." There was a moment of silence. "You're calling about what Sophia did, aren't you?" His voice sounded exhausted. "Yes," I admitted. "That damn girl," he muttered. "You wait. I'll handle this right now." "No," I cut him off. "Robert, I'm not calling to complain. I just need a contact." I told him the specifications of the leather I needed. I knew he had business connections in Europe and might know a supplier. "I don't want to owe your family anything more," I added. "I'll pay market price for the shipment." Mr. Wallace sighed on the other end. "You stubborn kid. All right, I'll make some calls." 30 minutes later, he called back with the contact information for an Italian supplier. "It's an old family tannery in Florence. I'm friends with the patriarch. I've already spoken to him, so you can contact him directly. Don't worry about the price." "Thank you, Robert." "Don't thank me," he said, his tone complex. "Leo, the Wallaces have wronged you. If you need anything in the future, just call." I immediately contacted the Italian supplier. They were incredibly helpful, agreeing to air freight a shipment of world-class leather and offering me a very fair price. With the biggest hurdle cleared, I could finally breathe. My 2 apprentices and I worked around the clock, practically living in the studio for a week. The night before the deadline, we finished the last briefcase. Looking at the rows of beautifully packaged goods, I felt a warmth spread through my chest. The feeling of pulling myself back from the brink with my own 2 hands was more satisfying than any multi-million-dollar contract I had ever signed. The next day, I personally delivered the order. The executive was visibly surprised to see me. He inspected every single briefcase. "Mr. Vance," he said, looking up after examining the last one, "to be honest, I had my legal team on standby yesterday." I managed a small smile. Glad I didn't give them the chance. "This leather," he said with genuine admiration, "is a significant step up from the samples. Some of the big European luxury houses use hides of this quality. I'm very satisfied. Here is the final payment." He handed me a check. "I hope we can work together again in the future." The weight in my chest finally lifted. I had not only saved my reputation, but earned a new level of respect from my client. Back at the studio, The first thing I did was call Mr. Wallace to tell him I would wire the payment for the leather immediately. He just grunted an okay on the phone, sounding distracted and unhappy. I figured he was still angry about Sophia. The next few days were a blur of finding a new studio space and catching up on back orders. I was too busy to dwell on anything else. But you can't always escape the drama. A week later, I was browsing rental listings online when a news alert popped up on my screen. Rising star Chase Rivers accused of abusive behavior, mistreating staff, and personal misconduct. I clicked the link. The article featured a secretly recorded video. In it, Chase was screaming at an assistant, his language vile and crude, before shoving the young man against a wall. It was a complete departure from his carefully crafted public image as a sweet, innocent young star. The video went viral. The backlash was immediate and overwhelming. Chase's social media accounts were flooded with furious comments from disillusioned fans. OMG, is that really him? His entire personality was a lie. I can't believe I used to be a fan. What a monster. My heart breaks for that poor assistant. Chase's agency released a statement claiming the video was maliciously edited and part of a smear campaign, but no one bought it. Soon, more stories started to surface. People from his past came forward, claiming he used to hustle wealthy older women for money. An anonymous source leaked details of him juggling relationships with multiple actresses and influencers at the same time, complete with screenshots and intimate photos. In a single day, Chase Rivers fell from grace. I watched the news unfold with a sense of detached absurdity. This was the pure soul Sophia had sacrificed everything to protect. I closed the browser, done with the whole sordid affair. But the next day, an even bigger bombshell dropped, and it blew the entire story wide open. An anonymous account published a long post titled, "The Chase Rivers I Knew and the Woman He Destroyed." The author, claiming to be Chase's ex-girlfriend, detailed how he had manipulated her, faked affection, and then lived off her money while pursuing his acting career. The post mentioned a Ms. W. The author described Ms. W as Chase's new wealthy benefactor, a woman who gave him anything he wanted. The post claimed that while Chase enjoyed the lavish resources Ms. W provided, he mocked her behind her back for being rich and stupid. Then came the kill shot, a leaked audio recording of a conversation between Chase and a friend. "Friend, so, are you for real about this, Ms. W?" Chase, laughing, his voice dripping with contempt. "For real? Are you kidding me? She's some washed-up woman pushing 30, totally clueless and clingy. If it wasn't for her family's money, I wouldn't even touch her. But man, is she generous. I tell her to do something, she does it. I told her her ex-husband was a worthless loser, and she actually believed me. She even used her family's connections to ruin his company. Can you believe how pathetic that is? Anyway, once I win at this film festival and cement my career, I'm kicking her to the curb. I'll have my pick of gorgeous young models then." The recording ended, but the damage was done. Ms. W, ex-husband, ruined his company. It didn't take a genius to connect the dots. Everyone knew it was Sophia Wallace, and the pathetic ex-husband was me. The story exploded like a nuclear bomb. Suddenly, I was thrust back into the spotlight. My workshop address and phone number were leaked online. Reporters and influencers camped outside my door, desperate for a comment. I had to temporarily close the shop and hide out in my studio. Online, public opinion was split. Half the people sympathized with me, calling Chase a sociopath and Sophia a fool. The other half accused me of orchestrating the whole thing as revenge. This Leo guy is no saint. His ex-wife's life is imploding, and he's suddenly playing the victim. The timing is a little too perfect, right? Big man can't handle his company failing, so he has to blame a woman. I read the accusations, feeling exhausted. I didn't want to explain or defend myself. For the vultures online, the truth didn't matter. They just needed a target. Just when I thought things couldn't get any crazier, Robert Wallace called a press conference. On camera, the 60-something-year-old titan of industry looked frail, his hair white, his face etched with sorrow. He began with a deep bow. "To the members of the press, regarding the recent rumors involving my daughter, Sophia Wallace, and Mr. Chase Rivers, I am here today as a father, filled with shame and regret. I failed in my duty as a parent. I allowed her to make foolish, misguided decisions. Her poor judgment has not only harmed herself, but has also caused immense pain to her ex-husband, Mr. Leo Vance. On behalf of the Wallace family, I extend our most sincere and profound apologies to Mr. Vance. Mr. Rivers' actions have caused severe damage to my family's reputation. The Wallace Corporation will be pursuing all available legal channels to hold him accountable. As for my daughter, Sophia, he paused, his voice cracking. Effective immediately, she will be resigning from all positions at the Wallace Corporation. All her personal assets will be frozen, and she will remain in seclusion to reflect on her actions. Mr. Wallace's words were decisive. He had not only cut ties with Chase, but had publicly disowned his own daughter. After the press conference, the negative comments about me died down. The public's attention shifted to the spectacular fallout for Chase and Sophia. Chase was dropped by his agency and faced massive lawsuits from both the Wallace Corporation and the film's investors. Overnight, he went from a rising star to a pariah. And Sophia, stripped of her family's wealth and protection, had nothing. The tabloids reported she had locked herself in the Westchester mansion, refusing to see anyone. None of it had anything to do with me anymore. I reopened my studio, and life returned to its quiet rhythm. Julian referred me to a therapist, a kind, insightful woman who helped me work through the lingering anger and hurt. I started trying new things, meeting new people. I signed up for a pottery class on weekends, a place where I could just empty my mind and work with my hands. It was there that I met Clara. She was an illustrator, bright and cheerful, with two small dimples that appeared when she smiled. We hit it off immediately. She loved my leatherwork, and I admired her art. After class, we'd often grab food from street cart or wander through a museum. Being with her was easy. It was happy. It was a feeling I never truly had in my 10 years with Sophia. I thought my new life was finally, peacefully beginning. Then, one evening, Sophia was waiting for me outside my apartment building. She just stood there on the sidewalk, wearing a faded old t-shirt and jeans, no makeup. She had lost a lot of weight and looked fragile and lost. She was unrecognizable from the glamorous heiress, I remembered. When she saw me, her eyes immediately filled with tears. Now, her voice was a raw, hoarse whisper. I stopped, watching her from a distance. What is it? Can we talk? She asked, her voice trembling like a frightened animal. I paused for a moment, then nodded. We went to a coffee shop nearby. She sat across from me, her hands twisting the hem of her shirt. I'm sorry, she began, the tears finally falling. Leo, I am so sorry. I know it's too late to say this now, but I have to. I was wrong. I was so wrong. I let that monster deceive me. I was such an idiot, a complete fool. She sobbed, cursing herself between breaths. I pushed a napkin dispenser toward her. It's over now, I said. It's not over, she insisted, shaking her head. I ruined your company. I almost destroyed you. How can it be over? Yell at me, Leo. Hit me. Do whatever you want. Just please forgive me. I looked at her, and my heart was a calm, still sea. There was no hatred, but there was no love, either. It was like looking at a stranger. Sophia, I never blamed you. I mean it, I said, meeting her eyes. The moment I signed those divorce papers, we were even. I'm sitting here today because of my own hard work and because of the help of good friends. It has nothing to do with you or your family. So, you don't have to feel guilty. You don't have to apologize. My words seemed to cause her even more pain. No, that's not it, she cried. You're just saying that. I know you hate me. You must hate me. Leo, can we go back? She asked, her eyes filled with a desperate hope. I want to go back to how things were. Back when we were in that little studio apartment. We were broke, but we were so happy. Can we start over? Please. I shook my head. We can't go back, Sophia. The man you're talking about, the one who loved you? He died the day I got on my knees and begged you to save our company. And you turned around and gave that money to Chase. And you're not the same girl who would light up for a whole day because I made you a wallet by hand. My words were a final, clean cut, severing the last thread of hope she was clinging to. She stared at me, the color draining from her face. So, she whispered, her voice trembling, there's really no chance for us at all? I didn't answer. Just then my phone rang. It was Clara. Leo, where are you? I just finished a new illustration, and I want you to be the first to see it. Her voice was like a ray of sunshine through the phone. The corners of my mouth lifted into a natural, easy smile. "I'm on my way." I hung up and stood. "I have to go. Take care of yourself, Sophia." I said the words and walked away, and this time I truly did not look back. I never found out how long Sophia sat in that coffee shop. I only know that I never saw her again. Later, I heard from Julian that Mr. Wallace had eventually softened. He sent Sophia abroad to study painting, something she had always wanted to do. He hoped that in a new place, she could finally find a way to start over for real. As for me, Clara and I started dating. My studio, infused with her beautiful artwork, developed a unique and soulful style. We designed together, created together, and turned that little workshop into an independent brand with a heart. A year later, we got married. It was a small wedding, with just a few of our closest friends. No grand venue, no giant diamond, but we were incredibly happy. On our wedding day, an anonymous package arrived. Inside was a beautifully wrapped box. I opened it to find a handcrafted leather picture frame. In the frame was a photo of me and Sophia from our college days in that tiny studio apartment. We were both smiling, impossibly young and full of hope. There was a small card in the box with a single sentence written on it. "Leo, I hope you find happiness. This time, I mean it." There was no signature, but I knew who it was from. I took the frame and put it in a storage box in the back of a closet. It was like that decade of my life, a part of my past, not to be forgotten but not to be dwelled on either. Everyone pays a price for the choices they make. Some pay with everything they have. Others pay with a lifetime of regret. And I paid with 10 years of my life to learn how to truly love someone, and more importantly, how to finally let go. Outside, the sun was shining. Clara looked up from her sketchbook and smiled at me. I knew my new life was just beginning.